Hi, folks. I'm Gene McLaughlin. I'd like to welcome you to Let's Talk About. Today, we're going to be talking about a very happy subject: dogs and cats, and how to take care of them and how to adopt them, importantly. And to help us do this, I'm delighted to welcome the coordinator of the Old Bridge Animal Shelter, Karen Chen, and Dan Sullivan, who is a science teacher of 6th grade at the Jonas Salk Middle School, and he has found a very unique club there, the Animal Club, that he works with his students. So, folks, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
you being here.
us.
Okay, as I said, a happy subject.
Yes.
Karen,
And,
how did you get involved? As the coordinator for the animal shelter, you have day-to-day contact. How'd you get involved with animals?
I always love animal, and then so I've done with the shipping line business, and it's for my dog, because it's so sad to work in the shelter, look at those sad eyes. So I promised my dog to say, after she passed away, I said I will go to the shelter volunteer. So that's why I started volunteering in the local shelter. And then after that, I feel like I can do more. So I actually go to training for animal control officer. So I also have that, and I also joined the Middlesex animal response team.
Okay.
That's for disaster, when people, we have certain for helping peoples when disasters are coming. So that Middlesex car team is helping animal when disasters are coming, so people can live together with their animal.
You know, it's an interesting point you bring up, and that is the point with some of these disasters, these cyclones and tornadoes and things. Animals get separated from their families, and some of them get always separated. They're brought up here. Some of them are being brought up to this area.
Yes.
How's that working out?
Actually, that's why the car team is. They start the car team is because a lot of people leave abandoned animal or leave the animal home, or they don't want to leave animal behind. So that's why when the car team joined with CERT team and those national disaster rescue team, we can work together so they don't separate, But unfortunately, it still happen a lot. So that's why the role is showing for rescue team and family reunited together for this reason.
It's amazing how they can get reunited too. Thank you, Karen. Karen, one other thing. Right now, an overview of the shelter. How many pets do you have there at any given time? A dog, a cat, or other? Do you have other? You mentioned you had an alligator.
Yeah, right now we have two alligator. Was last year somebody found in the pond, and that's why we want to tell people. When you get an animal, please don't abandon them. That thing about it, that's a long-term commitment, and it's a thing about your household. If you can have those animals, don't bring the alligator home and dump it in the pond, because they cannot survive in New Jersey area when winter time.
Right.
And the rabbit, right? Currently we have 2 rabbits, and we have 20 cat available adoption, but we still have a lot of cat waiting for clear, healthy concern or something, and before we bring out for adoption. So we still have a lot of cats, but the dog, currently we don't have dog right now.
Really?
Yes.
How do you normally populate the shelter, though? Where do you get the animals from that end up in the shelter? People turn them in, they get lost. How does it happen?
Yeah, mostly animals they lost or people abandoned from different location, and so we found it as stray, and we try to locate the owner. If we cannot locate the owner for 7 days by the law, and they become our property, so we will start looking for the home for them. And yes.
There's a law that they become the property, really?
Yeah, for stray animal, we have a hold for 7 days, determine if adoptable or not adoptable. And they need medical treatment, and we will take to the vet directly,
How much screening do you have to do with these animals, Karen, in terms of their physical health, their mentality, their adoptability? How much screening do you?
It's a lot. So from the beginning, we need to know the cat behavior and healthy and good with the kids, like a lot of detail. And when we screen the adoption, we will check the application and then try to get the best fit for the family. So that's why you will see our application is very long and very detailed.
Okay, thank you. Dan, if I may turn to you.
Yes.
I introduced you as the overseer, as it were, of an animal club.
Correct.
6th grade. How'd that come about?
Well, it really came about from originally just on social media. I would see how other communities had these partnerships between the schools and the local shelter system. So I felt like instead of reinventing the wheel, I could just go about and apply what's working in other communities to Old Bridge.
Okay.
So I came in with an idea to the shelter. I knocked on the door about 2 summers ago. I said, "Hi, I'm Dan Sullivan. I teach the district. Who can I talk to?" And
Oh,
from
really?
there, yeah,
Okay.
and from there, it all just sort of just really grew and expanded, and we've continued to grow and expand.
Well, how do you work together with Karen, with the Animal Club and with the shelter? How do you work together?
Well, we try our best to help financially support them in any way we can. So we'll do a lot of fundraising during the school year. Our first initiative was last school year. We did something called the Holidays at the Shelter, and we set about with the kids in the club decorated these 2 large cans, and some of the kids in the art club, they created this really beautiful sign and they hung it up, and it had just for donations. I truly had no idea how much we would receive, where it would go from there. Before you knew it, last school year, we had over 200 pounds of donations that we brought in on a school bus with about 30 kids. And this year we had even more. We waited before we left the school year, and this past holiday season, we had 300 pounds of different just items that have all been collected through the kids. And it's really the children and their passion in the school and their desire to really help Old Bridge and the animals here in the community.
Yeah, I was going to say, to create a formal animal club, though, it had to take some selling and some positioning.
You know, I think I'm lucky in my school. I just went to my principal, Mr. Bill Rezes, and I said, I'd like to start this animal club, and he said, go for it. So from there, it just was, again, I put out the word in the school on the announcements. I can't speak more highly of the kids in the club. Especially, I jokingly refer to this core group of 6 kids as my executive committee. They're just so responsible, and they really run the show. I feel like I'm just kind of there to be the adult to make sure everything goes smoothly. It's really the kids, 100%.
In addition to the fundraising, do they have any other responsibilities there, or?
Well, I think through the Animal Club, we try and I really try to focus on inclusion and including all students in the school. What I really love about it is that you don't have to be an athletic kid. You don't have to be an academic-oriented kid. You could just be someone that is in the school and wants to help and loves animals.
Okay.
So I feel like we cast a really wide net, and we're able to pull in many different types of students that might not necessarily be engaged in the school community. So I think it's a really wonderful way to have them part of the school, to feel part of the community, to feel that they have some ownership and personal responsibility
very well said,
at that age.
Okay, thank you. Karen, what's the most popular animal to adopt?
Most popular, people always asking small dog, puppies.
Small dogs.
Yeah, kittens.
Okay. How about kittens?
Yeah, the kittens too.
Who are the most difficult dogs or cats to place?
The special needs or senior. When the dog comes to shelter for some reason, the owner cannot afford it and they surrender and they owe, and that is hard, or medical issues. Because right now, currently, because for somehow animal always have kidney issue, heart disease, food allergies, those they need a special food. So those animals actually is hard to adopt.
Do you work with a specific veterinarian, or?
Yeah, we
how does that work?
as a shelter, as a municipal shelter, we actually have a shelter vet we go to, and even though it costs a lot of money, so that's why we actually really encourage people, when you have an animal, just be careful what the food you fed them, and make sure they bring to the vet.
Okay,
family.
before they come in. Huh?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, folks, please stay with us. We're going to be taking a break right now, and in a few minutes, we're going to be back. We're going to talk about the process of adoption. If you want to adopt a dog or a cat or a pet from the animal shelter, what do you go through? And to add a little cream to the pudding, we're going to bring on some potential adoptees. A couple of kittens will be here. Please stay with us.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Caring for a family member can be challenging and lead to countless questions for them and for you. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Let's Talk About. Today we're talking about the animal shelter here in the township and a very special animal club at Jonas Salk Middle School. And our guests once again are Karen Chen, who is the coordinator of the animal shelter, and Dan Sullivan, who is a science teacher at Jonas Salk Middle School, and he is also the proprietor and the headmaster of the animal club. Okay, folks, thanks again. If we can pick up, before we went to the break, we started to talk about adopting these animals, which is part of the purpose of what we're doing here today. Who makes a typical adopter, Karen? If you were to categorize a typical adopter, who is a typical adopter?
Basically, it's no typical adopter. The people who love animal or family want a companion, they will come to the shelter. So it's hard to give a category for typical adopter. So, but majority is they interest in animal, bring the kids and to see how animal in the shelter are. So and they basically just want to have a companion and a new family at home.
Are there cat people and dog people?
Yeah, we do have if you want to say that category, yes, we do have only cat people and dog people.
You find they break up in those groups, and most
Yes.
people just want a dog, some people
Yes,
want a cat, they
correct.
just don't want any pet.
Yes.
They want a specific animal. Okay. When you start to screen them, how do you screen these people?
We basically, when we show them the animal, we talk to them, we interview them, and we ask them fill out the application, and we go through all the information they provide us, and we go over the animal, whoever they're interested in, we will go through, is that animal good fit with their family? That's why we try to ask them as much information as we could.
To ensure a good fit.
Fit for both ends.
Before both animal and
Yes.
the adopter, huh?
Yes.
Folks, I didn't mention it when I went back to the show. We brought on some special guests here, as you can see, with Dan and Karen, a couple of little kittens. And Karen, tell us about the kittens. How old are they?
They are 9 weeks old and they born at a shelter, and the parents are actually coming from the hoarder case. So that's why also is why I want to mention, please spay neuter the animals. If you're not, then you will end up with a lot of animal at your house.
Karen, one thing you mentioned off the air, and I think it's an astounding statistic, that one female cat, a mother cat, can deliver 1 million cats in her lifetime.
Yes. About 9 years, and that's based on the national study, and then you can go on Google all those information, because multiplying, and then one cat, if she has a litter for 5.
Okay.
And 6 months later, average we talk about they can have a cat, mature kitten. So it's 6 cat in 6 months later, they reproduce another 5.
So,
right?
each of those 5 are
5,
going to have
and then
5.
Another 6 months, 5. If weather permit, one cat can reproduce 3 times a year, at least 3 times a year. So that is a lot. You can go home do the math. So
What is
really
the
amazing.
gestation period for a kitten from conception to delivery?
Average is average is 6 months. They can start reproduce. About months and a half, they can have babies.
They can start to reproduce at
6
6 months
months.
old?
Yeah. Yes.
They're not any more mature
That's
than
average
that.
because some cat
Really?
will be mature very young, 3 or 4
And
months old.
once
it
they're
depends.
that mature,
Yeah, and then they can stop reproduce.
that's unbelievable.
Yes.
Wow, a
So
million.
that's why people don't understand that, and they don't spay neuter. So when they got one male and female home, any animal, and then that's how they reproduce so quick.
Do you think that spaying and neutering is equal both sides? Dogs get spayed and neutered, or the same way the cats do? Is it more important for cats to be spayed and neutered? Or?
Basically, very important for both ends because first of all for their health, and the second of all is just because the reproduce and cat is majority is more issue. So please spay neuter your cats, because cat, in case they run away, if you don't fix them, they meet the partner and they can start reproduce, and cat can hide. It's hard to find the cats.
Right.
You know,
okay.
dog is easy. Dog can on the street, so people can spot them, bring to the shelter. But cat is hard. So it's just 1 year that cat can reproduce a lot of cats.
Oh, that's interesting. Dan, what's your interaction during the ongoing school year, say with the shelter?
Well, with the shelter, we have constant communication, and Karen's great, and she'll come out to the school sometimes, and she's talked to the club members and during our meetings, and she has talked about the importance of spaying and neutering pets, process of when they get older, how they can volunteer. So hopefully now that they're middle school, even though they're a little bit too young to do that, in a few years, with the club being only a year and a half old,
Right.
hopefully once they, get to the high school, they'll be even more passionate to volunteer at the shelter, and hopefully just spreading positivity and good word about everything that is done there in the shelter.
Do you keep any cats or dogs at the school that the kids can actually raise and nurture?
No, we don't have any cats or dogs at this school, but we are working on possibly having service animals, service
really?
dogs available. It's happening in some of the schools in the district already, and we're hoping to expand that program. And it really helps to really alleviate a lot of the anxiety many of the students have in school. It helps to just really bolster the school community and the overall general just well-being of the school community.
Okay. Karen, when would these animals become available for adoption, these two little fellows we have here?
For these two, basically, we're going to wait for a couple weeks and to clarify some medical issue. But we have a lot of kittens. Usually it's 9 weeks, so they are available for adoptions.
Okay. You talked off the air just briefly. You referred to foster parenting of these
Yes.
animals. How does that work?
They come in to fill the application, and we'll do home visit, and then we will teach them how to do to foster animals, how to take care of animals, and majority we actually looking for who has a experience for certain animals like senior or FIV or medical treatments animals, peoples,
Okay, one thing I notice is you have a very extensive application for potential adopters to complete.
Yes.
Is that by design that you gather all of this information? I remember when I adopted an animal many years ago, it was a question of walking into the shelter, saying, "Hi, we like you, come on home." Now it seems the whole process has changed.
Yes, the whole process changing is because based on the needs, because a lot of people just come into the shelter because they don't think about, it's long-term commitment, and so they just come to the shelter and say, I want that animal. And when they bring home and probably they have kids, probably that dog doesn't good fit with the kids, and the kids got bit or got scratched, and they got, or family has an allergy to the cat and they don't know, so they developing asthma or something. It's a very serious condition, but also it's not fair for the animal because they have to bring the animal back.
Bring the animal
yeah,
back.
and if the kids love that animal, it's heartbreaking for both ends. So that's why we're really looking into it.
Okay, I can understand that. You make the point very well. When you have the adoption process, now they've completed the application. I notice in the application there's a lot of potential home visits by you. They have a big yard, a small yard. Do they, is it a aggressive or a energetic animal? You screen for all those.
Yes, it's based on their environment. So some people, mostly for the dog, we require for the yard because it's hard. People say we can walk the dog, but unfortunately, reality, you're not going to walk the dog on the raining day and the snow day. Right. So the fencing yard is really required because you can just open the door, let them go to do their business, and they need a little bit exercise when you're busy, So so that's the reason why. And fencing yard is very important because dog can run away.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
yes.
You don't want that.
Yes.
One other thing, I read a lot in the papers lately about seniors and the importance of seniors maybe adopting a pet to facilitate a more cozy lifestyle for them, particularly if they're widows or widowers. It gives them a companionship. How's that working? Do you find that?
Basically, that is very good point because for people who need, first of all, they can suit their need. They have people to talk to, be a companion when they lost the other half, and actually can developing their healthy mental functions because when they're alone, they
They dwell on themselves.
yeah, and then they so sad. They have no people to talk, or they keep repeating themselves. Nobody want to listen. And when you have animal, they sitting by your side. You can talk to them, and they don't tell anybody your secret. And then and they look at you. They kind of like understand you. You know, so it's kind of comfort them very well. And both ends, they have a loving home, and a human has a loving companion who can listen, care for it.
I think it's a great concept. It really
Yes.
is, as far as getting people to adopt. Karen, any fees when I go in to adopt a pet?
Yes, it's fee. It depends what we do on the medical. So we don't have a flat fee, and the fee is set by the township. So it's different. So I cannot tell you on top of my head, but a majority for kitten is 95 to 125.
Okay, for
Yeah,
kitten and for a puppy?
For puppy is about 150.
Okay. Does that include, I assume, if they live in Old Bridge, they have to have a license for these animals too, huh?
Yes, they must have a license, which means they have to have a rabies shots. And when all the animal after 6 months old, they have to have a license with the townships.
Okay, thank you. One thing I'd like to touch on briefly out of our own self-interest here at Old Bridge Television, and that is we're running a regular program, Pet of the Month.
Yes.
How has that been working out for you? Has it been successful in encouraging adoption or moving animals for you?
Yes, actually, I would really appreciate OBG TV do that for us, because that people realize, shelter animal, how the area, what we have, and then how healthy they are, and
So it does facilitate
Yes,
the adoption process
yes.
for you, a little publicity.
yeah, and attract people to come to the shelter to see them.
I notice on your website you have this tremendous volume on kitten survival guide. I
Yes.
didn't realize the kittens required so much care, feeding and nurturing, etc. It's quite a piece of work. The ASPCA is instrumental in that.
Yes.
In helping you with that.
Yeah, ASPCA, the role they are is like national organization to rescue the animals and also educate people. So they actually have a very good resource about how to taking care of animal. And I'm glad they have that book, because we have big issue in Old Bridge is a cat. So
really?
and people always panic when they see the kittens, and then people don't know how to taking care of them. So that's why I was asking, TV station, if they are very nice, they put that on the website, and so we can help the resident when they need taking care of the kitten. They know how to take, from step by step from that book.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Karen, one other thing. We're talking about adopting a pet from the shelter.
Yes.
What about other ways of adopting a pet? Say a breeder, go to a PetSmart, a store, or what's your thoughts on that? If people don't go to the shelter, where do they go?
If they don't go to the shelter, if their friend has a puppy and you can ask for it, or basically we suggest don't buy the animal from the puppy mill and a backyard breeder. If you really want to buy, please go to the certified breeder, and they know how to breed the right dog, because backyard breeder, they sometimes interbreed, and those animals turn out has some neurological issues, mental issues.
interesting
So,
point.
yes. So, and the condition is no good, so animal always come out is not healthy. So they can go to PetSmart, Petco, a lot of places has a adoption center, like
Yes, sir.
rescue too,
Yes.
so they can go those places beside the shelters.
Good breeders, though, as I understand it, also help with training
Yes.
the new pet.
They also tell you how to taking care of the breed they breed, and they tell you the behavior. So if something went wrong, they will guide you how to taking care of the issues. Instead, backyard breeder, you take them home and you have no idea what's went wrong with the animals until they grow up, and that's also the reason people abandon those animals.
Okay. One other thing, Karen, at the beginning when you were talking about your credentials, you were also an animal control officer. You have an animal control officer at the shelter now.
Yes.
What's the role of the animal control officer?
Animal control officer, the job duty actually is helping the stray animals and or animal in need. So when animal in danger, we got a call, we went out to investigate it, we will rescue the animals, and if anything happening, and we will go further more detailed investigation. If confirmed is abusing anything, we have a human human law enforcement
Right.
in our police department can helping to for the more detailed investigation. And also the ACO role is taking care of the animal in the shelter, take injured animal to the vet. When everybody's sleeping, we probably on the way to the vet office taking care of them.
Okay, one last thought before we do wrap this up. Feral animals, feral cats. What's a feral cat?
Feral cat. Feral cat is a cat born outside and adopting the wild behavior, not close to people. So that mostly 99% is hard to turn them away to the adopting cat in a short period of time.
Okay, thank you. Role of volunteers. I mean, Dan, you are probably a prototypical example of a good volunteer. How important are volunteers to you to run the show?
I'm sorry?
How important are volunteers
yeah,
to
the
you to run the
volunteer-
shelter?
Actually, a volunteer actually is a big role for the shelter is because we also do the animal controlling. So sometimes we don't have enough time to socialize the animals, and they are the one actually helping us to keep eye on the animals and helping us clean, socialize them, and change their behavior. That animal know to recharge human.
Okay, so the volunteers play an
Very-
important role. Huh?
Yes.
Dan, in your job, do you see these, as you mentioned off the air, the youngsters are a little too young to volunteer, but they're certainly picking up the right training, right spirit to volunteer, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, character education is such an important component of the Old Bridge Township Public Schools, really, and all the schools really focus so much on that. So I think our club really helps to promote caring and community, which are two of the 6 pillars. And even though they're too young to volunteer right now, hopefully what they're getting out of it is a compassion for animals, empathy, which is really important for them as
point.
they grow up become young adults and enter the high school. So hopefully it's just something that can really just expand their ability to want to make Old Bridge just a little bit of a better place. All the kids, I always tell them, everyone doing a little bit adds up. It makes a big difference.
It up. Okay.
Right.
I see your friends getting a little restless there, huh, Karen?
Yes.
Getting a little,
Too
little
hot.
restless. Karen, how much do you depend on Dan's Animal Club group to help you out?
When I have a special need, if I need a special food, then I will ask Dan to help.
Okay.
So I will ask Dan if he can help me for special food and a special occasion. Yeah.
How do you raise the money now, Dan? You mentioned off the air you go to fairs and things like that. How do we raise
Correct.
the donations?
Well, we are going to be at the flea market. That's in 2 weeks for Old Bridge. We went to the Family Fun Fest. We try and have as much of a presence in the community as possible, especially when it comes to fundraising. Could be as simple as during lunch for the American Cancer Society, we did Bark for Life relay they're doing. So to support that, we had the kids just donate any spare change. And believe it or not, all the spare change added up and they raised over $1,000.
Really? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, nice job. Okay, folks, we've been discussing the Old Bridge Animal Shelter and the Animal Club at Jonas Salk Middle School. And we hope we've given you an idea, a little bit of the flavor of what goes into the shelter operation, the operation at the Jonas Salk Middle School with Dan Sullivan, and what it may take for you to get down to the shelter, take a look at a pet, and maybe bring a pet home, huh? Rather than leave them linger in the shelter, because animals are great, as we've talked about, great company. We want to thank you for watching. Dan, thank you for coming in. Best of luck with the club and with your students. And Karen, always good to see you.
Thank you.
Continue
Yes, you
the
too.
good work down there.
Thank
Huh? And folks, this has been Let's Talk About for this time. I'm Gene McLaughlin. We'll see you again next show. Take care.